This is the Brew Party Podcast, episode 103 of the Brew Party. I say that in the interview again, so spoiler alert. Anyway, this is technically the first episode of season 3 of the Brew Party Podcast. Special thank you to everybody that's been here from the jump. If you've been here at any point, any support for the show at all, if you've came on the show as a guest, if you've listened, if you've watched, tuned into a live stream, commented, liked, followed, anything, I appreciate you so much. Welcome in to the party. It's another edition. I know we're back from 2-week hiatus. We took a little Super Bowl break, had a guest that we were hoping to get on, had to switch up the plans a little bit, and then last week I was just a little too lazy. I just did not. I'm not going to say I didn't have time. I probably could have done it. I just did not plan anything. This week I was planning to take another break, but then the news drops. The MLB, the lockout has continued. The first two series of the regular season of Major League Baseball have officially been canceled. Opening day has been canceled. So it's a little part 2 episode this week. Last time, I shouldn't say last time. I should say, when the MLB lockout was first announced in December around the winter meetings, I had my good friends Alec Walt from Down the Block Sports and Hank Indictor from Hank Indictor from Review and Preview Sports on the show to break down the lockout, why it was happening, what's going on. Well, unfortunately, it's still happening. I was hoping to have them back on to talk about how baseball is back, but they are back this week to talk about God, I'm struggling through this right now. It's like, Jesus, first time? Nope, episode 103. So you'd think I'd have it figured out by now. God damn it. So they're here to help me break down what's going on, why we're here, what the players are arguing for, what the owners, what the MLB is arguing for, how Rob Manfred fits into all of this, and his stupid fucking smile on the podium 10 minutes after canceling the first 2 games of his season. So we just look at kind of the how and the why we got here, what each side, like I said, is arguing for a little bit. Each of the components here, some rule changes, some economic stuff, some money stuff, some salary cap, paying the players, service time, rule changes, the shift, all that good stuff. It's about 50 minutes with me, Walt, and Hank. Excuse my chair here, the squeakiest chair of all time. Apparently, if you'd like to send me a new one, go ahead, send me a message. I would love to endorse that for you, whatever company that is. But yeah, this is the Brew Party Podcast, episode 103. I don't have much more to add here. This is going to be an incredibly short intro. The haters said that I couldn't do it. Also, I know I need to shave and I know I need a haircut. It's coming next Friday. I have that scheduled, so leave me alone about it. Anyway, Brew Party Podcast. Make sure you follow us on social media. We are at the Brew Party on Twitter and Instagram. We're at the Brew Party Podcast on Facebook. Hit us up on YouTube, youtube.com/the Brew Party. Like this video, leave us a comment, subscribe to the page for more awesome interviews, more content from me, more beers, and yeah, who doesn't love more beers? Couldn't tell me. Anyway, also, if you're in need of a car, hit me up. I'm selling cars now, so I would love to help you get in the perfect vehicle. Yeah, obviously I'm a great car salesman. Vehicle. Let me know about that. I'm hoping for some Illini basketball content, some Big Ten basketball content. March is here, balling like March Madness. I love it. It is one of the best times of the year. The tournament's coming up. Me and Ryan Maloney will be back for a special March Madness Maloney's Money Line edition. Maybe maybe with a special guest. I saw somebody on Twitter that said they were available for podcasts, big or small, talking college basketball, and I'm going to shoot my shot, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see what we can do, but this week we're talking baseball, or I guess the lack of baseball, what needs to change, what needs to happen for these two sides to agree on a deal, a new CBA, so we can get our goddamn baseball back. So from Down the Block Sports, it's Alec Walt. From the Review and Preview Sports Network, it's Hank and Indictor. They're joining the party once again for episode 103, MLB Lockout Part 2. Here we are. Thank you, as always, for being here. Season 3, Episode 1 of The Brew Party coming at you on a Friday evening. Perfect time to sit down, crack a cold one, and enjoy the party. You guys know sports betting season is in full swing. The NFL, unfortunately, is wrapped up, but that doesn't mean there isn't still plenty of action to get in on. You can get on the NBA, NHL, college basketball, any bet type you need. Head over to BetUS Sportsbook. That's BETUS Sportsbook, BETUS.com, BetUS.com. Throw in promo code TheBrewParty for 125% sign-up bonus. They've got live betting. They've got futures, overs, unders, spread, money line. They've got a racebook. They've got a casino. Any bet type you can think of, BetUS has it. They've been paying out their customers with integrity for over 30 years in the sports betting industry. Get like me. Go to BETUS.com. Promo code The Brew Party for 125% sign-up bonus. BetUS Sportsbook. You bet, you win, you get paid. Okay, Hank, I'll have to do it too then. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Episode 103 of The Brew Party is here with two very distinguished gentlemen, very distinguished guests, great friends of the party from Review and Preview Sports, the one and only Hank and Indictor, and from Down the Block Sports, it is Alec Walt. They are joining me. I'm so happy to have them here. I hope everybody else is happy to hear what they have to say as well. Not so happy subject, I guess. A couple months ago, we had them on to talk about the MLB lockout. Spoiler alert, we're doing that again this week, and unfortunately, it is not because it's over. It's because we have officially our first set of canceled baseball games. Opening day has been canceled, and the second series of the season, first and second series of the regular season, have both been officially canceled, as the MLBPA and the MLB have failed to come to an agreement. I believe the earliest they can resume talks now will be Thursday. We'll see where it goes from here. Not looking great at the moment. The reports all last week where they were so close, they're almost there, and then poof, nothing. And we got Rob Manfred taking a press conference and smiling like a fucking buffoon, talking about how his league won't be playing games when it should be. But anyway, Hank, Alec, thanks for being here. Hank, I know you've been chomping at the bit to get started and talk about this, so just let's just let it rip from the jump.
To say that I am absolutely furious is an understatement. Like, you had a few months to talk this over. They do nothing for a couple months. You mean to tell me that they're just going to spend a few months not even addressing the issue? Then at the last one, let's resolve some stuff. But then you get to the big part, which is about the money, and then you're canceling games. Ridiculous. And look, I'm be honest, this isn't something that like we didn't see coming. Because I mean, look, we have an episode with all three of us talking as proof that we all knew the MLB was having problems with a lockout and talks to like start a season. But still, just the fact that you had all that time to even talk and you waited till March to get this done. And by the way, Any reporter that was telling me, oh, they were getting close, that was a total smokescreen. I feel like
I wasn't buying that at all. I mean, you look at the numbers and where they sit currently, even today, after games were canceled, and to think that overnight they were just going to budge each side, $50 million or so on the, pre-arbitration bonus pool, and to jump $15 million on the salary cap when we're already dealing with an issue with current owners of smaller market teams rejecting the jump. So, we're in a pretty bad spot right now. I mean, we said this before a couple months ago. A lot of people were asking me if throughout this entire process when I thought this was going to end. And I kept saying, I was like, get ready to go into the summer potentially without baseball. And it's looking like that. I mean, it's terrible. When the Super Bowl ends, it's supposed that Monday, it's supposed to be all Super Bowl talk previewing the big game. And that Tuesday, we see a lot more of the conversation leaning towards Major League Baseball. And in 2022, after having a shortened season the year before, after you knew there were going to be more issues coming after that negotiation, a very successful year in 2021 with a lot of teams spending money, a lot of teams being extremely active in the trade deadline. And now we're in a lockout where we can't see any baseball. So it is currently March 4th. There are not players on the field at spring training. The Florida and Arizona sites have really only been used for college games or college tournaments. Or the meetings that took way too long to happen. The fact that these two want to give me the sense that they were so into wanting to play the season on time, and then went the entire month of December not talking any core economics, to then going into the next month where we're already into spring training, and then you want to talk every single day and still not come to an agreement? Like, don't tell me that you were so eager to get this deal done on time. And I don't really listen to it from either side. After going that full month of December not talking core economics, this is a joke. These two have been in a standoff for months. And to be perfectly honest with you, I've been wanting a lot of things to get fixed because I communicate with a lot of former players on a regular basis with my current job. There's a lot that needed to be fixed. And to be perfectly honest with you, like looking at the current structure, the players have already won this. And I don't think it's close. The minimum's been raised. The cap is going to be raised. There's universal DH, so pitchers don't have to hit, and hitters can either transition their career to a DH earlier or just hit for a longer period of time. Like we could have more Nelson Cruz, David Ortiz, type of bats. And now players who sign long-term deals in the National League who may have to deal with a position change, that's no longer a concern. The owners want expanded playoffs, they're not getting that. There's a lot that the players have already done. It's just very specific numbers haven't yet been determined. There's a pre-arbitration bonus pool coming. There's potential draft pick penalties. They're getting rid of the draft pick after signing a player after receiving a qualifying offer. Because if you give them more than $50 million or so, you surrender a first-round draft pick, and it de-incentivizes teams to want to spend the money. So a lot of changes have been made, but we're just sitting at a point where certain numbers are a little unrealistic on both sides. And now with no expanded playoffs and players not getting their full salary, nothing tells me that tomorrow morning we're going to wake up with a deal.
Right.
Like, what makes you think that the players are going to drop from their $90+ million, even $100+ million request on the pre-arbitration bonus pool? I think that number will be determined on what the salary cap is, but obviously with the higher cap numbers, the owners want stronger penalties, which basically prevents someone like Steve Cohen from spending $350 million on a roster every year. So it's a weird spot, and I'm not happy that here on March 4th, we're talking about, well, obviously I love that we have college basketball coming up. That does help. It's a nice distraction, but if we keep going into these months where we know we eventually need a month or so to get ready for spring training, it's terrible. The game is hurting itself every single time it's in the news. And every time it's in the news nowadays, it's continuing to tell you that there's no baseball.
Right. And so let's kind of break down a little bit. I know you just basically did that, the tax, the salary cap. There were only two teams last year that went over the salary cap and got, the luxury tax or whatever you want to call it, had to pay for it. It was the Dodgers and the Padres. The players are arguing that, these teams, even if they are in the smaller markets, need to be nutting up. They need to be spending more money and be, more aggressive and give these teams more of a chance to compete in the playoffs or compete for a World Series. I believe they proposed 236 million is what they wanted it to be, and the MLB offered 220 million. Do we think that number goes up at all? I don't know. I mean, there has to be something. We see too many teams in the MLB, like the Pirates, paid nobody anything. Who else? I mean, think about the Marlins and all the salary dumps they just made a few years ago. The Rays have notoriously been. I mean, actually, it's worked out for them, not paying anybody.
Oakland A's.
The Oakland A's as well. Like, do you think we see this trend go away as these demands from the players are coming in? Like, are the owners going to budge on this? And how long are they willing to wait with these negotiations? I guess is really what I'm getting at.
I think they're going to wait until it really hurts their pockets. But problem is, I think why the owners aren't even going to agree is because we all know most of these guys are like big fat cat billionaires who have money coming in from other ventures and other areas in life. So they don't even it's obvious that those guys don't really care and like that all this is going on. I think really not till a point where it really hurts them is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, when I look at the salary cap, does the number going up change anything? If there's no floor, who cares?
Right. That's
so like if the number goes up to 235 hypothetically, like you said, only 2 teams got there. Now maybe if it rises, it could convince a team like the Cardinals, or I mean the Red Sox do spend a lot of money. I think Heim's trying to keep it to a different direction. But if you're a team that's like spends a lot of money and is competitive but needs just that little more space to sign someone for this year, that'll help you there. But where I think the players are not fighting for the right thing is if you want these teams spending money, you have to force them to go to a certain number. Like, why is it not set up where you have to spend at least $80 million? Or there's a floor for how much there's floors in other leagues.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no floor, nothing telling me I have to fill my roster with all these large contracts. If I can compete with a team that is extremely cheap, or if I'm rebuilding, just flip anyone that costs money to continue building in the system, you have no reason to not. Now, the problem with baseball is, these rebuilds are just taking way too long. And you look at a team like Baltimore, who's been rebuilding for 5 years. What tells me that they're not going to be rebuilding for the next 5? So the way I look at it is if I'm Steve Cohen, or if I'm the owner of the Yankees, or if I'm the owner of the Dodgers, I don't care what that number is because I'm getting the fan attendance. I have the team. I can compete now. And that only gives me more flexibility to make a move. But if you tell me there's no floor to how much I can spend, these same teams that aren't competing or think they can compete on a budget, I don't think are going to change.
Sure. And now, speaking of spending and a floor, the players want more money for, the bottom tier of players, like the minimum salary. And I mean, and that's been a problem. It's been well documented with the pay of minor league players. And it sounds like they're taking a step towards, paying these guys more, at least making sure they have housing and stuff like that. But even, the regular, the guys on the 40-man roster, they're all not all of them are millionaires and billionaires like these owners. How do they get the owners to budge on that? I know they said they raised it up from what, 600,000 to 700,000 as a minimum salary. Do you think the players are trying to get it up to $1 million? Like, what is the floor there?
Well, so for that, I'm trying to think. Are the players still at like 95 or 100 million, and then the owners at like 15? Is that still where we sit today?
For the pool?
Yeah.
I think the
pool will be determined based on whatever the cap is.
Sure.
So it's like tough to tell because they're so far apart on it. And that's where I think players are being a little unrealistic. you're not going to get $3 million per top 30 WAR player out of Major League Baseball's account. I think it's a win for the players that they're getting this, because I think thinking of some creative way to get younger players paid more earlier is great for baseball. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. nearly hit a Triple Crown last year, and he was making like $550,000. Now, he does get revenue from being Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and other deals outside of baseball, but not every player benefits from that. There are players that deal with options to the minor leagues and stuff like that. So in my opinion, I think it'll be at least 30, because they want to incentivize these players for finishing with a top 30 WAR. I think that's around where I think it's going to go. It's still tough to decide, because every negotiation they move $5 million. So it's like, are we just going to negotiate 50 more times till we get to $50 million or $60 million and just play this stupid game this entire time? So it's tough to determine right now, because it's such a large gap. But I do think that they're going to really set up a system where, Vlad, if you win the MVP, or if you're a candidate for the MVP, you have the chance to make a very nice incentive that comes out of MLB's pockets. And I know it drives MLB crazy, because they're the one that's going to have to pay for this, but I think it's an extremely creative and well thought out way from the players union to get these guys these other deals.
Hank?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really excellent point. And I think it's a good point that Walt made. I think the players, as much as you want to fault the ownership for, being greedy to the average Joe, I think there's also a lot of players that, some of their demands aren't as realistic. It's really a lot of fault on both sides. So yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And there was another thing I thought was interesting. The players are also arguing for service time. It's been documented that the MLB has, well, not the MLB, but certain franchises have kind of abused that service time rule, keeping certain players down in the minors for an extra week or an extra couple days, just to get an extra year of control over their contract, a la Chris Bryant with the Cubs. And I believe one of the proposals the MLB set up was, if you finish first or second in Rookie of the Year voting, that automatically counts as a full year of service time. I thought that was a pretty decent deal there. Obviously, I'm not in these negotiations, but do you I don't know here. The players just seem like they're going for total reform. Like, we need to change everything. You listen to our demands, or we're not going. We're not doing anything. And with the service time thing, I feel like that's another one that's been a long time coming.
Yeah, it has. Teams use it all the time. And then you look at Major League Baseball, one of the biggest issues in the league right now is the fact that players are reaching ages of 29, 30, 31, 32, and their 6 years of team control are off the books. Now, when you're a college kid and you get drafted, or when you're a little bit older going into the minor leagues, it's hard to land a full-time major league job before you're 25 years old. And if you're 25 years old and you start your 6 years of control, no team is going to pay you a long-term $10, $13+ million deal to, at that age. Now, if you're that good, you can sign shorter-term deals over, a couple years. There is the risk of injury like that with Major League Baseball. Obviously, players want to try and get as many years and guaranteed money as possible. But with the way the current system is set up, that's not really happening. Now, obviously, from an ownership standpoint, that's really the one area where they've been firm. They want the 6 years of team control, which is why we've seen some of these other creative ideas from the players' side to get some of these younger players paid more with raising the salary, with raising the minimum salary, and then having the pre-arbitration bonus pool. But when you look at Major League Baseball, teams have done everything in their power to manipulate it to have a current window stretch as long as possible. And by having some of your top level talent stay for an additional year because he didn't reach a certain number in regards to playing at the major league level. In my opinion, it's professional baseball. I think if you have a 25-man roster, the best 25 men in your organization should be on that team. And I know I'm not making some of these decisions. I don't have billionaires telling me what to do in meetings on a daily basis. But, you know, if you want to be Major League Baseball, I think your 25 best players should be there. And if that players could potentially lose a year down the road, obviously it's a sacrifice teams are going to have to make. But who the hell wants to go and see the Orioles play with a bunch of veterans no one knows? Like, at least if you're going to be rebuilding, give someone the ability to watch this rebuild happen. Mm-hmm. And a lot of teams are just preventing teams from doing, are just screwing with the rules just to get the extra year, and it's not helping in negotiations.
Well, yeah, and to piggyback off on that point, like, if you're an average fan paying to go to these games, don't you want to see the best lineup on the field in addition to wanting to win? Like, so yeah, no, it makes a lot.
I mean, there are times that player deserves to go down. Like, if you're hitting 120, but you're a high prospect, like, okay, it happens. But there are times where I see the Red Sox even do it too. Like, they've kind of messed with Tanner Houck for a little bit when he was clearly one of the better starters on the team. And I was like, are we really going to do this right now? Like, come on, guys. Like, let's go. Like, he was recovering from an injury, so like, there was one time where it made sense. Those other times it wasn't. But yeah, that's one thing baseball needs to make sure they fix, because, you know, it's a young era nowadays. I mean, all the exciting, you know, flashy up and coming guys, you know, Acuna, even though he doesn't talk as much, you know, Tatis Jr., all these other guys are 24 years or older. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing a lot of the best players in baseball making very little money. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
That's the craziest part to me. Like, I didn't even realize Vlad Guerrero Jr. was making $550K. That's just, and obviously you mentioned he's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He obviously has some, you know, endorsement deals and other some other revenue coming in. Mm-hmm. But still, that is insane that the guy almost won the Triple Crown and he's not the highest paid player on their team, or even making, you know, over $1 million a year. Anyway, rule changes. Rule changes have been another topic. We talked about it earlier with the universal DH, which I am all for. They want to implement a pitch clock, in efforts to speed up the game, which I guess I'm not against.
There already is one,
but it's like
it's just irrelevant. It's just in the background.
Okay,
right. And then the one that I really disagree with, they want to eliminate the shift to up the entertainment value or whatever of games. And me and Hank were kind of talking about this before we started. If you can't just lay down a bunt or just learn how to hit the other way, or Hank even said it, just try to go yard the whole, like, if they're shifting against you, you shouldn't be in the major leagues. I don't understand. Like, if you learn how to beat it, or you just start laying down a bunt every time, they will stop shifting on you. Like, that was the most preposterous rule change I think that I've seen proposed in this.
Oh my gosh, it used to drive me nuts back in the day. Whenever I saw Mark Teixeira go up, they would always shift on him, and not pretty much every single time I'm there, I'm like, I would always tell the guy next to me, let's see him try to bunt. I don't care that the guy is slow as molasses. There's nobody anywhere near the third baseline. He can make it. And then now this is the same is true with Joey Gallo. And I think Joey Gallo was one of the guys that was crying about, like, wanting the shift gone or something. Well, dude, maybe work on upping your batting average or something before you complain about the shift.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with the league saying, okay, you can only do a certain number of shifts in at bat. I think there are some teams that kind of abuse it and are dancing all over the field. But in my opinion, if you see a way to optimize your chance of getting 3 outs, do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's your job.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm so confused. Your job is to hit the baseball to get on base. If you see 7 people in the outfield, hit it the other way.
Did we forget
But
about
if you're going to hit the ball to one place 9 times out of 10, I'm going to put everyone over there. I don't see why it's such a big deal. Now, if you want to, put a cap on the number of shifts and you're really going to have some nerd,
I'd be okay with that.
Down on a box that he moved. Yeah. They did whatever shifts in a game. Fine. I mean, it's going to be a very boring job, and like have fun just counting the number of times the defense moves. But in my opinion, if you see a strategy that works to maximize your chance of getting an out, one of the 27 you need to win a baseball game, do it.
Yes.
Don't pitch a fastball down the middle every time if like someone's going to hit a home run. Why would you do it? You know, why would you not put yourself in the best situation to get an out? I feel like that's terrible managing if that's not the way you think of how to win a baseball game. I think the shift argument is so stupid. Like you guys have been saying this whole time, like if they're going to adjust to you, you have to adjust to them. It's the major leagues.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention the shift is strategy. It's been used for like what 100+ years of baseball. Like there's nothing cheating about the shift. It's called fucking being strategic. And if you want to cap like Walt said, if you wanted to cap the amount of shifts, I can understand that. I don't know if I'm not sure if I'm 100% bored on capping the amount of shifts in a game. But at the very least, the idea to get rid of a shift in Major League Baseball just because you're complaining about somebody like striking out a lot or getting the out, we forget the other team's paid to get the guy out too. So, yeah, no, that's so ridiculous.
It becomes arbitrary for me because, I mean, as a Cardinals fan, and I'm sure they're not the only team in the league that does this, they all have a note card in their back pockets that has different defensive positions or for each batter, due to the scout, where they want you to align. At what point does the other team argue, oh, they can't do that? That's a shift in defense. If they know this guy likes to pull to the right, or they know this guy hits bombs to deep center, so they have the defense or the outfielder is backed up to the wall. Who's to argue, oh, they're shifting, or I don't know. I guess the pitcher's not going to be hitting anymore. So coming, scooting in when the pitcher comes up to bat. I don't know. I just feel like the whole shift argument, that's dumb. Like I don't understand if they're trying to appeal to people that don't like baseball, that are never going to like baseball. You're upping the entertainment value,
especially after now.
For who? For nobody. You've pissed your core group of fans off enough where we've seen a protest outside of MLB HQ in New York. I stand with Frank the Tank. I don't know about you guys, but it's like, so you've pissed the core fans off enough where some of them are getting to the point where they just don't know what to do anymore, like us in this conversation right now. And then how do you think any new people are gonna like see this from an outside perspective, be like, oh yeah, I'm in on this baseball thing, let's go, we don't even get to play games? I know you guys, Alec, you said there's both sides to blame here, and I agree with that, but I still want to take a minute to just shit on Rob Manfred, because I don't know how he can cancel the first two series of the season, go through all of this, like you were saying, Alec, go through no economic talks, no talks about money, which is really the main issue here in all of this. Until now, everything falls through, then he can get on that podium and just sit up there with a big smile on his face right after he just canceled the first two games of the season. I just don't understand the mindset, and maybe his heart's in the right place and it's just not the right words are coming out, but it's just like it's really, really hard for me to take the MLB's side when it's this guy is the face of their negotiations.
Yeah, Rob Manfred has been pretty terrible for Major League Baseball since he's been the commissioner. It seems like every time he is speaking publicly, he is saying something that turns around to bite him in the ass about 5 minutes later. I mean, it's truly unbelievable, like how his staff can come up with ideas that simply aren't very good ideas. I mean, we see relationships with leagues, improve around sports, and then this one just doesn't really ever seem to improve. Now, I don't think people in Major League Baseball understand, just how, how things are changing they don't adapt very well. They still act like they're in, the 60s. It's not it's not good. And, I'm not a huge Manfred guy. I think he relates terribly to the players. I think the owners like him because, of the TV deals and, he's been fighting for expanded playoffs and other things to get more money in their pockets. And obviously, as an owner, that's something that you would want. But at the end of the day, it's about growing the game of baseball. And since he's taken over, they had a, standoff for the 60-game season during COVID. They have had all these complaints coming out about the way minor leaguers are treated, and then they think it's fixed, and then it's not fixed, and then they try and come up with something else, and they realize that there's another complete issue. There's always something going on with, how they treat their future of the game. That's always under question. And then if you're a kid trying to learn how to play baseball, when you get drafted and go through the process of becoming a professional, you have to go through a bunch of different minor leagues that make you nothing. In college football, you're preparing to be a professional. In college basketball, you're preparing to then go to the pros. You're going to professional baseball, but you're not going to Major League Baseball. And when it comes down to growing the game, a younger audience isn't watching. They're way more interested in watching a football game. They're way more interested in watching a hockey game, a basketball game. I know they want to try and speed the game up and get the ball in play and stuff like that, but, it's just, I love baseball, but I don't always love watching 3 hours of baseball. And that is a reality I have accepted as a baseball fan. I will watch the game, but even if some of its diehards can't watch 162 for 3-4 hours a night, it's an insanely long commitment. Now, where I think baseball will be okay in the end is that crowd of people that goes to a game every year are still going to go to a game every year, in my opinion. I think they might struggle to get people to watch games early on, but if we're talking about just overall growing the game of baseball, they're not getting young people to watch the game. They're not treating the young players in this game well with how much they're getting paid and how they're being treated in the minor leagues. And then it's also a much longer process after college to officially become a professional. The other issues those other sports don't have to deal with. And then just making a name for yourself. You graduate from being college basketball, college football. A lot of people know you. Companies that want to sponsor you know you. In college baseball, unless you're, the college baseball player of the year or someone who hits a bomb in the college baseball World Series, you're not exactly a known name. And that's another thing I think baseball quietly struggles with because, kids get drafted and immediately have deals ready for them in every league except for baseball. Hockey too, but hockey it treats their minor leaguers better.
Way better, yeah.
Hank, come on. I know you've been chomping at the bit, waiting to just rip into Manfred. What do you think, man?
Oh, my gosh. He is one of the worst, possibly the worst commissioner that Major League Baseball has ever seen. And like Walt said, I really think the biggest problem, and if you really think about it, it could have very well led to the situation that we're in right now with the baseball popularity. He doesn't grow the game. And to piggyback on what you said, Walt, this is the same commissioner that once threatened to cut 40 minor league teams and put them out of commission. This is a guy that we're supposed to trust at the head of all these stupid negotiation meetings and for making a speech on the future of the game of baseball. This is a guy we're supposed to trust. No. And not to mention, you have a lot of players, even before that, this guy doesn't even market his star players. This is the same moron that tells Mike Trout, hey, why don't you go make yourself more marketable to the fans, when yet this guy can't even do that for his own game. I think that's part of I think that more so than the length of the game itself has been the reason that you've seen a lot of people start to tune out of baseball, seeing attendance start to decline because they're just not doing a good job of adapting to the times. I think Rob Manfred to me comes across as a guy who is just he's way out of touch, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. And then when he does try to make a change, it's all these silly bullshit rules like having a runner on second base to start the 10th inning or having 7-inning doubleheaders, which aren't necessarily as bad, but still, this guy has just been one of the absolute biggest problems in baseball. And if I may, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent. The last time there was a strike, do you guys know the last time baseball had, or not a strike, had a lockout?
What, 94?
Not 94, 1990.
Wasn't it two? Yeah, it was just. Oh, okay. Okay, I know where you're going with this.
Fay Vincent was the commissioner of baseball at the time, and he didn't care about what the owners were doing and what their goals were. He said, look, enough is enough. You got to start playing the game. That lockout didn't last long. They got a season in. And then a couple years later, you had a lot of the small market owners turn against him. You know who the main ringleader of that group was, Andy? Jerry Reinsdorf. The same moron that just decided to break up his team. He essentially got fired for trying to keep the game afloat, because a lot of the owners turned against him. They didn't like that he was like potentially taking money out of their pockets to want to like save the game. And he like had I gotta find the quote that he said, but he ended up saying that like he saved the game in baseball, but there's never going to be another commissioner that will like do things for the greater good after like saving the strike the way he did. And look where we are now. 30 plus years later, we have a commissioner who not only doesn't grow the game of baseball, but he's willing to side with the owners on like all these big issues. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Well, that's the rub on Goodell, right? Everybody fucking hates on Roger Goodell because he makes all these decisions. But at the end of the day, and it's similar with Manfred, he works for the owners.
Yeah, they hire him.
Yeah, they are the one that hires them. So, of course, he is going to cater to them. And, of course, he's going to do whatever they say. And it's just really, really unfortunate. And, we hope that by Thursday or whenever they can start negotiating again, that we're going to see an agreement, some type of move forward in some way, because we want to see baseball. I mean, obviously, the minor leagues are still playing. They are still starting on schedule, which we really, that's great. And it's good to see these minor leaguers still be able to get out there and play. And if you're a baseball fan, go watch or find out how to watch your team's minor league, stream, or if you're close enough, go see him play. It does kind of suck because if you're a minor leaguer that's never played in the majors, but you're on your team's 40-man roster, you're screwed. You don't get to do anything, which is you can't report, and you don't get to play at all, which is pretty fucking stupid. In my opinion, it's just go ahead.
They have screwed over the last 3 years of prospects.
Mm-hmm.
If your years of 21 to like 24 right now in Major League Baseball, you have gotten robbed from no minor league season to then, not like they had the alternate site and whatever, but like it's a quiet story in baseball. But for those prospects who've been developing these last 3 years, have gotten absolutely shafted.
Just Rob gave him the fucking shaft. He cuts like fucking however many minor league teams, and then now.
Oh yeah, another thing I didn't even get into with Manfred. This is the same guy that pretty much tries to sweep every scandal under the rug too. So again, are we sure this is a guy that we trust? Oh, and that quote that Fay Vincent said, I'm going to pull it up. I had it up right here. I was thinking about it. He said, to do the job without angering an owner is impossible. And I can't make all 28 of my boss happy. Keep in mind, this was in the early 90s when he said this. People have told me I'm the last commissioner. If so, it's a sad thing. I hope the owners learn this lesson before too much damage is done. Well, look where we are 30 years later.
Yeah. Wow. Deep hair.
These were this guy essentially may have foreshadowed what's happening today.
I mean, It just doesn't look good right now. In your guys' opinion, what's a realistic number of games that the MLB actually plays this season? We know it's not going to be 165. I know the players have proposed playing doubleheaders. I don't think the owners were as receptive to the amount of doubleheaders that the players wanted to play, which again doesn't make sense to me either.
Yeah, because they charge you for one of them.
Right. So, what, in your guys' opinion, what is a realistic number of games that gets played in the major leagues this year?
I mean, we're already at so they've canceled 7, so we're already at 155.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way they get a deal done this week. And if you add another, man, I think 120 would be. Do I go another month of this bull crap? With these two sides, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll go. What's up? I mean, making the schedule is going to be a nightmare, but I'll go like 110.
110.
They're insane if they. I don't think they hit a half. I don't. I also think that'd be incredibly stupid if they let this go into the summer, especially like after, NBA finals and NHL Stanley Cups wrapping up. Thank God we have the draft too, but I'll go 110, and I feel like this could backfire on me really fast because if this just keeps going, then 110 is not going to look. But I'm just gonna play it safe here.
110, Hank.
Give it another month or so.
I think this goes to show you that I'm maybe marginally more glass half full than you might expect. Because Andy's seen me. Andy knows I'm a little bit more of an optimist at times than I should be. So in this case, I'll say 120. But my prediction is we probably get the season back either Memorial Day weekend or early June. That's my guess. But to be honest with you,
great goal date.
This isn't a guess with the utmost confidence, though, because would I be shocked if things somehow turn south and get even worse? Absolutely not.
So, actually, the Memorial Day would be a sick weekend for them to start, or like even the beginning of May.
I know that's why I was thinking Memorial Day weekends.
Exactly right. So, I was gonna be as optimistic as saying like 140 games, but I don't even that would be like they are agreeing to it.
Well, they both just kind of hit each other recently. So the players said no to 14 teams.
Right.
If they
said
didn't
12
hit,
though, right?
So now it's 12, but owners also told players they're not getting a full salary for 2022. So like that happened Monday, Tuesday.
I think I saw something.
Said they get past the deadline, they're not going to agree to 14-team playoff, which the owners wanted for the expanded TV deal.
You guys think that it was their plan all along to cancel the first 2 series of the games? I feel like first 2 series of the season. Excuse me. I feel like both sides kind of came into this knowing that there's going to be there weren't going to be playing a full season.
I mean, it sounds like it with the way that they were handling the negotiations.
I truly believe both would like to be playing right now, but the players seem very, set on getting a lot of things accomplished. And I think they already have, gotten a lot of things accomplished. And obviously from a image standpoint, it doesn't help Major League Baseball nor its players by not playing right now. But, man, I just want this shit over with. I can't stand this anymore. I mean, I also like, I have to work covering the game. Mm-hmm. So it's a challenge I've accepted, and everyone at the channel is doing great with it, but that's another obstacle I have to deal with in my professional life now.
For sure. In your guys' opinion, before we get out of here, what is the number one thing that they need to figure out that needs to be changed in Major League Baseball for everything to be okay moving forward?
You want to go first?
No, I'm going to let you start this off.
They need to improve the lifestyle and treatment of its young players. Because if players see that you could get drafted into the NBA while signing an NIL deal that's better because you're playing college basketball, that makes you millions of more dollars and not have to deal with taking a bus from Sarasota, Florida to New Orleans, Louisiana overnight and play an afternoon game, players are going to be less interested in wanting to do that, especially after how things are going with Major League Baseball as it currently stands. They have the chance to lose a lot of fair weather fans. And I don't think that's good for growing the game of baseball, because when parents want to figure out the sport they want their kids to play, like, I do think baseball will still be relevant from that aspect, because it's a very simple game that kids of all ages can play. Like, I wouldn't have my 5-year-old playing football, but, you know, if you have your 5-year-old playing baseball, I mean, it's something simple and a lot of people can do. It's just, if baseball wants to improve its future, it needs to make sure they're, the minor league lifestyle needs to be better. The treatment of the way they are as a professional needs to be different. I mean, they're not getting, optimal meals needing to play professional sports to convince people they're worth the salary of millions of dollars and a promotion to the major league mound. And these guys are sitting here maybe having a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for dinner. I mean, it's just, they're not getting paid good salaries. Some of them have to live in group homes or in small apartments with multiple people. And,
Right.
I understand a lot of kids need to do that as young professionals, but I'm not someone that needs to train for hours a day to, like I said before, convince, Chaim Bloom that I'm good enough to play second base for the Boston Red Sox. Well, if I'm eating not great meals and I'm getting a terrible salary and I have to go to bed every night not knowing if I'm going to be able to pay all my bills on time, which, again, it happens in the real world, like I've said multiple times, but, the only thing that's going to do is make people not want to play baseball. And, the MLB will still be powerful. MLB will still have great talent and great prospects and great athletes and great people, but it's not something you just wake up and earn. And the process of becoming a professional after, the collegiate level sucks, and they're not treated very well. And it's something that needs to be fixed if they want the best athletes in this country and around this world playing the game of baseball.
Absolutely. Definitely the minor leagues need to improve. And yeah, to expand on that point, I think the difference between me and the fair weather fan, if I've already made up my mind that Hank Jr. is not going to be playing football. It's that simple. I don't want him taking a bad hit to the head or a hit to the knee. Like, I'll watch every single Giant game or every NFL game. He's not playing football. That being said, if I want him to, if there's any one sport I want to grow and expose Hank Jr. to, maybe hopefully 5-10 years down the line, it would be baseball. So I would definitely say that if you're going to improve the game, I think I would have to agree with Walt there. You need to improve the conditions of the minor leagues. Got to have them, like, it's one thing if like they just have to, be in spots where they pay their dues, but to treat them like, they're in, to give them the worst living conditions possible, that's terrible.
Like, you don't even have like a cafeteria with that.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You're telling me you have all these profits, and some of these companies have to, release their profits because they're publicly, funded and stuff like that. And you're telling me you guys make all this money and you can't even put in a AA cafeteria to make sure your athletes are eating chicken and vegetables and breakfast?
Right.
Like, I understand I'm not in the position to spend that money. I don't know what their lifestyle is like. I'm not going to pretend to, because it's simply never going to happen. But, how are you expecting the future of your company? The future, fans are going to wear the jerseys of these players you're watching right now. And, some get the signing bonus. I get it when they're drafted and they're fine for a little bit. But, that's not the case for a lot of people. And I just think it's just such a huge problem that they're trying to sweep under the rug, but now they simply can't.
No. And it's just, not everybody is taken in the first 5 rounds. What about the guy taken in the 20th round from fucking some community college in God knows where that's on his last shot. Has had this dream where he's got to go drive Uber on the weekends or at nights after games. And then, like you said, Alec, these guys are living in apartments, 2-bedroom apartments sometimes with 10 guys in there. And then there's no meal plan or anything like that, but you're expecting them to develop into a professional athlete. And especially in these times now, with all we know about the nutrition and all of this stuff, it's not the early 80s and 90s in baseball where they're smoking cigarettes in the dugouts and there's greenies in the coolers.
Mm-hmm.
It's just preposterous what they expect from these minor leaguers and what some of these guys are subjected to, and why you can't blame some of them for, doing the minor league lifestyle for a few years and eventually going like, I can't do this anymore. I can't support myself.
And what else sucks is like, if they never even make it to the show, then it's going to be tough for them to have to go live in the real world and then find a real big boy job with not a lot of money left over, like from the end of your career. So it's horrible. Like I think honestly, the people I feel bad for the most when it comes to the lockout, I would say the average Joes, or like the guys who either like never even sniffed the major leagues, or the ones who like are jumping back and forth and after like year 5 or 6 have to like go look for a real day job once you realize they're never going to live up to their full potential are done. And also the other people I really feel bad for are like everyone who works in the stadium or all the businesses around the town that like really rely on Major League Baseball.
Yeah. I mean, think about St. Louis. St. Louis is the Blues and the Cardinals. Yep. Obviously, it's great that the NHL season is still, going right now. So you get that revenue from the Blues. But, Walt, you mentioned it. Like, what if this goes on to the summer? Summer in St. Louis is Cardinals baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of revenue that they bring in for the city of St. Louis is exponential and vital to that city's economy. And it's not just St. Louis. It's a bunch of other small market towns like that. Kansas City, Detroit, Cleveland, Cincinnati. That's just cities in the Midwest, all over the country. Baseball, it's America's pastime. It's been around forever. And it's just really, really unfortunate what seems to have happened to the professional baseball just landscape at the moment, and we really do hope we can figure it out. But I feel like this has been a great update to what is going on. So before we get out of here, boys, let's plug each of your wonderful shows, wonderful content we can find from each of you. Hank, I'll start with you. Review and preview. Big Blue Avenue, I know, is not around at the moment, but you can still be found. And then Hitting for the Cycle. Hopefully that will be coming back if we have any baseball to actually talk about.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm hoping to do Hitting for the Cycle, but if I can do a second season of Hitting for the Cycle, we go live on Facebook and YouTube at 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursdays, and essentially I cover pretty much every big news that happens in Major League Baseball. Obviously, I talk about the Yankees and the Mets, but then I'll talk about guys like Shohei Ohtani and Vlad Guerrero Jr. It's basically a weekly update show, kind of similar to what Big Blue Avenue is. It's that one also during football season airs every Thursday at 7 p.m. We go live then. We talk about the Giants. We give like news about the games, roster moves, injuries. Like, you get the idea. And then lately, I've been doing a lot of hosting for Review and Preview. Tom hasn't been here in March, so I will be on a lot of episodes of Review and Preview, and I'll still be a recurring member of the regular show occasionally every now and then. But when I'm not doing that for Review and Preview, you could also find me making short videos both for the Big Blue Avenue YouTube channel and for the Review and Preview YouTube channel. I'll talk about any big breaking news that happens in Major League Baseball. And I also recently have started doing weekly update videos for the New York Rangers, which is the third team that I am a diehard fan of. So stay tuned for that. And I'll be keeping myself busy regardless of whether or not there's a season for the Review and Preview channel. So you can definitely find me on those platforms. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for my plugs.
Absolutely. We'll go down to Walt, the head honcho, over at Down the Block Sports, exclusively on YouTube.
Exclusively. Alec. Yes. You can find me Down the Block Sports on YouTube. I am nearing my 1-year anniversary. I started this on March 8th, 2021.
Let's go.
So I'm a few days away from that, which is pretty cool. You know, I try and keep the platform pretty open. You know, I'm a Boston guy, as you can see from the two banners over my shoulders. I try and do as much content from them. I went to the Celtics game yesterday, saw the Celtics beat the Grizzlies at the TD Garden. That was pretty cool. So I try and talk about as much sports as I can. You know, I'll talk about news going on all over the 4 major sports, maybe some college basketball, some Bonnie's basketball coming up with the NCAA tournament and A-10 tournament coming. I don't know if the Bonnies will make it to the NCAA tournament, but they certainly have some big games coming soon. They're dealing with a pretty bad injury going into the A-10 tournament, which is pretty rough. But, you know, I'm hopeful I'll still be there in D.C. to cheer them on. But, yeah, you can find my show, The Alec Walt Show, and other of my reactions to major sports news at Down the Block Sports exclusively on YouTube.
Absolutely. I want to thank Hank. I want to thank Alec, as always, for joining us. Always a pleasure having you boys on the show and helping me make sense of what the hell is going on in Major League Baseball and with this lockout. So yeah, this is the Brew Party Podcast. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, or just go to www.thebrewparty.com. It's got links to all of our episodes, ways to listen, links to the social media, ways to support the show. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at The Brew Party. We are on Facebook at The Brew Party Podcast. Like this video on YouTube, subscribe, youtube.com/The Brew Party. Comment and tell us what you think about Rob Manfred, or Manfred. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm pronouncing that wrong. Manfred. Also, special thank you to everybody that's tuned in, been along on this ride. This is officially the first episode of season 3 of the Brew Party Podcast. So let's go. Let's go, boys. Hopefully we get some baseball this season. We're dying for it from the bottom of my heart. Figure this the fuck out, okay? Because I'd like to go to a baseball game this summer. I don't know about you. But anyway, like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. Brew Party Podcast, episode 103. I'm Andy. He's Hank. That's Alec. We're out of here.